Today on the Coaching Life Podcast.
Being able to say it in words that the person you're talking to understands you. And that's a big one.
Another big idea that's related to this is the idea of buzzwords. These are words that we often will use, but the meanings are a little obscure.
Yeah.
Like the meanings, they're not always clear. And this happens a lot, right? And what buzzwords do is I think they fill in the gaps of our lack of knowledge, or they put a mask over the areas that we truly don't understand.
One day, a couple of guys sat down for lunch and a conversation began. They talked about youth sports, how to be better coaches, how to be better parents, how to be better at developing young people. Not only for the games they play, but for life. That's what the coaching life is, a conversation. And we welcome you. Now, here are the hosts, Chris Stewart and Pat Martin.
Welcome to the Coaching Life Podcast. We are back, ready to have a conversation. When I say we, I'm talking about myself, along with a really good friend of mine, whose name happens to be Coach Patrick Martin, and he's sitting right across from me right now. Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Coach, good morning, man. I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. It's
fall, isn't it?
We woke up and it became fall within just a couple of days. I actually got a jacket out for the first time here in Southeast Ohio.
It's been hoodie weather for me for a while. So
Yesterday I did not wear a jacket to work, and on my walk, because it's been, morning's been cool, but then afternoons have actually been warm, and so it's one of those.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
more so than sometimes
hot. And yesterday was not one of those days. Yesterday was cold in the morning, and then when I left to walk back to my car, I was like, dang, it's cold again. The wind was blowing. It had a little chill to it. So.
Yeah, my son walked out the door and was like, is it going to rain today? I said, no, it's just winter.
Only in New York City.
Don't even get me started.
Didn't even rain until 2 hours after they put the tarp on.
All you Yankee fans out there.
Jeez.
You're lucky.
Here's the deal. We're recording this today. This is Tuesday at 11:45 a.m., whereas when you and I are speaking to each other on this recording.
Yeah.
By the time this recording hits anybody's ears, the Cleveland Guardians will be in the American League Championship Series, and I'm going to Game 3.
Here we go.
I mentioned
where
last
are
week,
your seats?
They're behind home plate.
No, they're not.
Yeah, they're in the upper deck.
No.
Those are $1,800 seats. You can get a few down there, but those are not the ones we purchased.
Yeah, that's what Chastity was saying. My wife, she said we should have went to Cleveland Sunday and caught the Browns and then
tag along with us.
Yeah, no, this past Sunday the Browns played the Patriots. It was a miserable day. Yeah, it'd have been the worst experience of our life.
Yeah, because that game was not a great one for the the Browns game was not good, and the night before though, wow, that Saturday night game was phenomenal.
That's why baseball is such a great game right there. It's a perfect example.
I saw a video that somebody had made from their hotel room, and I assume it's from our hotel room. Maybe it's an apartment nearby, and you could see Progressive Field from their play, like they had the window open or they were out on a balcony or something, and they were recording like the end of the game. It was that last at bat, and SpongeBob was up to bat, and you could hear the crowd, like just that constant crowd noise. It's the same noise that you hear when you come uptown at a Halloween block party. It's weird if you have your windows down here in Athens, as the closer you get to uptown, the more you can hear just this
bustling,
like this roar. Yeah, it's this roar of a crowd. But it was even greater in Cleveland that day because they were coming back. 2 outs, 2 strikes, and I thought, wow, that must be when they won. And the video said, wait for it. Because it's like, oh, it's going to get louder. It was unreal.
I haven't
the
seen
explosion of crowd noise.
I need to find that.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. It's pretty sweet. It sent chills up my spine. And there were a couple guys like walking through a parking lot you could see like down below because there were a few buildings, a parking lot, and then you could see the stadium off in the distance. And there were these guys walking through a parking lot, and as soon as that crowd erupted, you could see these guys jumping up and down because they knew we won. We obviously just won, walked it off.
Did you see the steel frame of Gonzalez's swing? Did you send me that? I
did.
You sent that
this
to
is
me?
This is how you fight off a pitch.
Yeah.
This is two-strike hitting right here.
Battle.
Yeah.
There's zero mechanics involved in that.
Oh, yeah.
So it was
a lot of his base hits have been that way.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, not just his. That Cleveland team plays baseball that way.
Yeah.
This is why I actually sent that to my assistant coaches also, and I told them I am setting aside, because on that MLB Films website, have you seen that where you can just take clips?
No.
You could type in a skill that you want to teach.
Yeah.
Remind me to send it to you. I think I saw it at somebody showed it to us at the ABCA conference last year. It is a phenomenal resource.
Wow. And so live action.
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
You can go in and type in like double play, like middle infield double plays, and it'll just send you a whole bunch of little 1 minute long videos, 30-second long videos of technique guys doing it.
That's awesome.
And yeah,
beats YouTube. Beats searching it on YouTube.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And I'll see if I can find that. And we'll make sure, because I know people who listen would love resources like that as well.
Yeah, no doubt.
And so we'll share that. But
that's a great teaching tool there.
It's phenomenal.
You want to know how to field, a second baseman, how to turn a double play the proper way.
But that's just one example that I
watch these clips.
Right,
yeah,
right,
sure.
But I'm going to do that with just the Cleveland Guardians team from this year. I haven't.
With their hitting?
I have not, with their entire way they play.
Yeah, base running.
Everything.
They did screw up the other day, but
it happens.
Yeah,
it does. That kind of thing does happen, right?
Yeah.
And Tito, Coach Francona also, he's so good. I love the way he responded to that,
Yep.
Didn't throw anybody under the bus. He's like, man, that's the way he plays. He's aggressive.
Yep.
Right?
That's the cost.
Right. Yeah, you take the good with the bad sometimes. He said, he rounded a little hard. He knew it, and we tried to get him out of it by challenging it. And it didn't work. So
yeah,
no big
deal. Got buried for that challenge, by the way.
That's stupid. That's ridiculous. when else during the rest of that game was he going to use that?
That's
challenge?
what people don't understand too. And we were talking this morning about what pitcher to pitch, and I said I'd have to know the clubhouse. Mm-hmm. He may have known that he wasn't going to get that call.
Yeah,
but for Ramirez to know that the coach has got your back.
Yes.
People undervalue.
They don't understand that.
They don't
get it. Yeah. And in another layer of that, do you ever watch the dugout during those challenge situations? The manager is just trusting somebody else. Granted,
sure,
the manager
in the back,
the manager has to own it. He made the decision, right?
Right.
But he's looking at another guy who's on the phone talking with somebody else who's looking at a video, and that guy does either this or not, and they.
Yeah, that's what it is.
They wave it off.
Too.
Yeah,
coaches get a lot of grief.
Yeah, they're throwing that red flag, not because of something they saw with their naked eye,
right?
But because something somebody saw on a video.
Yeah, and they gotta listen to that voice. They gotta listen to their player who every time is saying, "Challenge it, I got it." I did it.
Every stolen base, right? The guy's standing out there, and they're like, "Get off the field, come on, get off the-" We could see that with the naked eye. You were out. Yeah. Well, I tell you what. There are some things that happen. Speaking of coaching, right? Speaking of having a responsibility to have a lot of knowledge, and before you make certain decisions or before you make certain coaching cues, that's a tough thing. And as I've been watching these postseason baseball games, I love this time of year. This is really the best time of year. I'm a summer guy, but when baseball is in the postseason and football is in that time where they've all played 7 games or so, right? And you're in the thick of it now. Like you kind of can know who the playoff teams are and who aren't right now.
Yeah.
And then actually in the NFL, man, it's tough to make that call right now.
You can still probably pick the top 50% though, and those are the teams that's probably going to go to the late in the go far in the playoffs and probably make it to the Super Bowl. You can still pick it out, but I told someone the other. This is when baseball's real. This is baseball.
Yes, it is.
Everything's kind of stripped away, and this is when MLB teams really play the game.
When else do you have a pitcher who's worth $140 million say, give me the ball? He's only had 2 days rest and he threw 110 pitches 2 nights ago, right? You're never going to hear that.
Right.
But when it's do or die, it's win or go home. Yeah. I'll do whatever it takes.
Yep, exactly.
And that's, man, I love that.
Yeah,
I love that. Yeah, we were debating this morning, like you said, over who's gonna
pitcher?
Yeah.
Because Bieber wants a shot.
The ace wants the ball. Yeah, but Frank, I respect him going with. Is it Savale?
Yeah, and he's pitching. Good. I mean, it's not
he's a ground ball pitcher.
Yeah, I mean he can, and if they have to, they can bring Bieber in later.
Yeah.
If it's
I do like Cleveland's pitching. Again, this is funny because we're talking about this, and it's going to already happen by the time anybody hears it. But it'll be funny to hear.
Some people may not even care.
Exactly.
Some of them,
like they're fast forward and 15-minute skips, 30-second skip.
Red Sox fans out there aren't listening.
Yeah, Reds fans.
Yankees won't care either. But by the time they hear it.
People ask me, like, who are you actually a fan of? Like, you're talking about going to St. Louis. Now you're talking about going to Cleveland. I thought you were a Reds fan. I said, listen, I'm just a fan of baseball.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, this is the time. Like, baseball, This is the best.
Right.
Best
I
time
don't care who's playing.
Yeah.
If someone's near, if I got an opportunity to go and watch, I'm going to go and watch. It's just.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the best time to watch baseball. There's no Major League Baseball. I said that going into church the other day. I said, this is the time of year I love watching Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
Any other time, I go with college. I go with Little League. I'd rather watch softball than Major League Baseball a lot of times. But this is
certainly because
like we said, this is when all the fat's cut off. This is when it gets right down to it. It means everything. It's good stuff.
It is. So. Let me ask you a question.
All right.
I actually started to tease this, bring this topic up today in the conversation, but then we're still too excited about the MLB stuff. But here's a good question for you and a good question for all of us coaches out there, and that is this: do you know what you don't know?
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Isn't the answer no?
Do you know what you don't know?
Isn't the answer no?
I think a lot of us don't know.
Yeah.
What we don't know, right? Well,
I have a strategy for that question. You want to hear it?
Yeah. That's what we're about.
Just assume you don't know anything.
There you go. Play dumb. Play dumb. That's right. And it's not a bad idea, really. It's actually a really good idea when you are wanting to just be as good as you can be. I think that's a great conclusion. Remember that and say it before we sign off here today.
Okay.
Because that's a great strategy for it.
Yeah, I agree with you. You talk about this topic in your book, Coaching Life, and you use the phrase "eternal student."
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah,
and that's it. That's the key. You're always learning, and there's a number of ways that you can learn. Yeah,
I actually completely forgot that I wrote about this, and I was flipping through, because we had our last week's podcast was actually based on a chapter from this same book, and so I had it on my desk, and I was flipping through and looking back through it, and because I've actually considered this book didn't sell nearly as well, and like people like now when I look at like I'll still get some sales from the publishing company, and most of them are building champions. But if anybody buys a book, it's that one.
Yeah.
And so I actually consider, because there's some really good chapters in this.
Oh, this is
like
great.
I don't say that to toot my horn, but I'm like I want to get these chapters out there. Maybe not all of them, but I thought about doing a second edition to Building Champions and including some of this stuff in there because this.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, because and I completely forgot that I wrote a chapter called "Do You Know What You Don't Know?" And so as I was reading back through it, I was reminded of why I wrote that, because I remember all the stages that I went through as a coach.
Yeah.
When I first began coaching, of course, I thought I knew everything.
Right.
I was the new guy. I was spunky. I was different than I was going to coach differently than anybody else, and people would even tell me that. And so that pricked my ego even more, right? And so for about 10 years, I don't remember reading anything about coaching back then. I probably did. I know I did. I bought a book by Andy Lopez, who was at the time coaching at Pepperdine. He had coached at Florida Gators and won a championship there, I believe, a national championship. And I remember really gaining some insight from him back then and reading that book. But for the most part, I had my way of doing things and really wasn't interested in anybody else's way.
Right.
And 10 years later, realize, okay, I maybe don't know as much as I thought, and I learned how to try to learn from others, buy some books, things like that, attend some conferences, and but even still, like I think give me another. I'm close to another 10 years, and I think I've realized I don't hardly know anything at all. I really don't.
It's like the Pistol Pete movie where his dad stands up, says this basketball represents everything there is to know about basketball. Or how did he say? I can't remember how he said that. He put the dot on it, so this represents what you know. I can't remember what he said. I have to go back. That was great.
You got half of an analogy.
This
right
basketball represents everything there is to know about the game, but the size of the ball also represents everything there is that has not been discovered yet. And then he puts the dot and says, "This is what you know
about the game."
That's it.
Speaking to professional players, right?
No. He was coaching high school then.
Oh, was he really?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, that was his dad coaching.
That's pretty cool.
Don't chase women. But yeah, that's what it was. That's what it was.
I like
I'm glad I got that out.
Yeah.
Pistol. The Pistol. Was that what that movie was called? Yeah. You know what I think? I feel the same way. I feel like, and I didn't start coaching high school. Well, I did. I coached junior varsity baseball, 18, 19 years ago. And I thought, at that time that, I don't know all I need to know about this game. I don't need anything else. But what I think changes, and it's evolving too. Becoming a parent. Because there's moments when you become a parent, there's moments when you have no idea,
spellbound,
what to do.
Yeah. I'll tell you what it does. It humbles you.
That's right. Yeah, the idea of being the eternal student. It keeps you humble. It does humble you for sure.
Because that is the center of the issue of not realizing how much you don't know is ego, right? Because the whole idea behind that question is that we probably don't really know as much as we think we do. And when that is put to the test, most people find that they cannot explain the workings of some everyday simple things that they think they understand.
Yeah.
Like, for example, how's a toilet work? We all use it.
The magic swirl.
Every day, right? And it's like, I know how a toilet seat works, or I know how a toilet works.
What is it?
But okay, explain it.
Is it gravity and centrifugal force? Is that?
Yeah, like the zipper on your jacket. Explain. Can you make one of those? Explain how that works.
Right.
I mean, but it's things. It's things that we feel like we fully understand because we use them without even considering. We do it, but when it comes down to being able to explain how and why it works this way, we don't really know.
Yeah, and there's three challenges there. One is, or like three situations. One is, you think and you've never really thought about it. Two, you may have looked into it before because you're not applying that knowledge every day.
Yeah.
You forget.
Yeah.
And then three is being able to say it in words that the person you're talking to understands you. And that's a big one because it's different every person you talk to.
It is. So here we go. I mean, so this is an everyday life concept.
Yeah.
But it applies so much to sports. to coaches, to parents, to anything. And I think one of the another big idea that's related to this is the idea of buzzwords.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Like these are words that we often will use, but the meanings are a little obscure.
Yep.
Like the meanings, they're not always clear. Sometimes the buzzword is it's pretty easy to understand what you're saying. But other times, I think and this happens a lot, right? And I think what buzzwords tend to do is it's easy to pick up on buzzword. This happens, man, this is a coaching thing. I mean, it's so easy to pick up on buzzwords. And what buzzwords do is I think they fill in the gaps of our lack of knowledge, or they put a mask over the areas that we truly don't understand.
Yeah.
Right? There's a ton of those. There's a ton of them out there.
Swing level.
Yeah. What is that? Yeah. Have a level swing.
Elbow up.
Stay inside the ball. Keep your hands inside.
Keep your eye on the ball.
Keep your eye on. Yeah. Or do you know what you're saying when you say those kinds of things?
Keep your hands back.
Hands back. Keep your weight back. Get your front foot down in time. Get your front foot down early. Or get it down on time.
Yeah.
Well, okay, which one is it?
That's true. Either one. Either one is true. Yeah.
Like,
what's that mean?
Is early on time? Is on time early? And what do you mean when you're saying that? Why are you saying that? Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Get on plane. Okay. It goes with the level swing thing, right? And there's just all kinds. Shorten up. I say, and this is funny. The reason why these are coming to my mind easily is because these are ones I use, right? Hey, shorten up right here. Shorten up, short and quick.
I was never able to explain shorten up, so I just tell my guys just swing away.
You know what shorten up looks like?
You could probably find it on the MLB site.
It looks like Gonzalez's swing in his game-winning hit against the Yankees the other night. That's what shorten up looks like.
We were actually talking, me and one of my assistant coaches this year was actually talking to his daughter during a softball game the other day, telling her that we did this.
To her?
Yes.
Gave her
and
cues.
She kind of just looked at us like, what do you mean?
They're trying to process.
Yeah, and so I want
to do what you're telling me to do.
She was, and she was asking, well, what do she wanted help. And, between us, we were dissecting, how you need to get around on this pitcher that you're a little late on.
Oh man,
it says
get the front foot down early.
Exactly right. I think ultimately we landed on just start swinging earlier. We talked about
swing harder,
hand placement. How you take to me shortening up. A lot of shortening up is removing any additional. Movement that we use for timing or power maybe or comfort sometimes, anything like that, so that we can speed up our swing.
Yeah, I actually have been taking some notes of things that I want to clarify a little bit more with my players.
Yes, because and that's great. And that's a good point what you just say right there, because that's how you bring life to buzzwords.
Right.
Remember when we went and
this is actually one. This is one of them in particular.
Shorten up.
I'll get back to it.
Remember
go ahead.
Coach Trotsky? We listened to Coach Trotsky, and he was using all those crazy.
He lost me. Well, I mean, he was so freaking energetic too.
He was awesome.
Yeah, I loved him.
Yeah,
I didn't like his pants, but he's one of those dudes that wears baseball pants above his knees and then wears leggings underneath.
But what would you call him? He talked about coaching mental strength, I would say, is what his session was about.
Yes.
And they were using. He was just using all these weird phrases that basically to his team
and acronyms. I had no idea what the heck these things meant.
And it does. I don't even think it matters at times, because for him that just means energy and confidence and comfort and things like that just bring out good feelings with the players. But he explained those things to those players. But during the games, he probably sounds like a mad fool out there just screaming these things. And these players, you know what I mean?
If he does that during games.
Right. Which it sounded like it was more of a player-led thing once it got implemented. But the point I'm bringing up is buzzword. If you're going to use buzzwords, like you said, make sure you can explain them, and make sure that if you're going to use them during game, that the players know exactly what you mean when you say them.
Yeah. Yeah, I have one idea that we're going to go with, for example, in the shorten up. Shorten up your swing. You got two strike hitting, right?
Right.
You get 2 strikes. You're still looking to hit the ball hard,
right?
But you're also basically making a decision. I'm not going to strike out here. I'm going to put this ball in play.
Right.
And so one of the best ways to do that is to shorten everything up and be quicker. And so we're going to go with 2-2-2-2, right? And it's all 2 inches. We want you to choke up 2 inches, move 2 inches closer to the plate, 2 inches closer to the pitcher, widen your feet 2 inches, 2 inches more. So that's 2, 2, 2, and 2. That's 4 twos.
Nice.
Yeah. And so that's going to feel different, and I want it to feel different because you're in a different situation now. You're not looking to attack now. You're looking to fight now, and you're going to have to fight off pitches that are not yours, not ones that you're looking for.
Sure.
Man, that's what the Guardians have done, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Well, they've done it all year. I mean,
and I have not necessarily watched them all year.
Yeah, and we talked before the series started, and I wasn't very optimistic. But I just, the Yankees, when they hit home runs.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I underestimated how good the Guardians were at doing what they've done because they played in a weak division, but they've beat good teams.
Yeah, they have.
It's just like I didn't really. Their pitching's been great. So a lot of games I say we. A lot of the games the Guardians won are low scoring games. But they're dogs, man. And here's the thing: they're young. It's the youngest team in Major League Baseball, so they've got that.
Right.
They got some swag when they walk out there.
They do. They don't know what they don't know.
That's true.
They don't know what they can't do, right? You're not supposed to be winning today.
They're just playing it, man.
Yeah,
it's great.
I just love, like what was it? Was it it was the game they won in New York. Quan gets up first pitch of the game, he drags a bunt. I say drags because he's hitting from the left side, and he kind of pulls it with him. People still call that a push bunt towards second base.
Right.
But he pushes a bunt to second base hit. Right. Someone texted me. They're like, "How'd you like that bunt there?" I said, "I loved it." They're like, I didn't think you liked bunting. I said, no, I absolutely love a well-placed bunt.
See, that's where
he did not give up an out.
People aren't listening to our buzzwords.
They're not. Exactly. Yeah, we do not hate bunting, period, with the period after it, right? Yeah. I just don't like sacrificing outs. Man, outs are precious.
They are.
And so even if we're in a situation where we're trying to move runners, I still want that hitter to try to place that bunt somewhere where you've got to make them earn this out.
I like that mentality too, and I think it puts. But here's the thing, Coach. It's a little bit more of a difficult bunt to execute.
Yeah, it is. That's the argument, right?
But you practice.
But you practice it.
Yeah, that's what you need to do.
Yeah. I don't care on the defense. It's not about not squaring around early and things like that. I mean, it's not. I don't care if they know you're going to bunt, but there's a strategy to it, right? Mm-hmm. You don't just bunt it back to the pitcher. Don't just bunt it 6 feet in front of home plate where the catcher's going to make an easy play.
Right.
Put it somewhere where we can still get the runners over, but then you have a good probability of being safe as well.
Yeah.
That's my philosophy on it.
Yeah.
And I don't care. And here's the thing. I don't care if somebody else has a different one. We're both probably right.
And here's the thing, too.
That's the beauty of baseball.
Will you say that you will never sacrifice?
No, I wouldn't use the word never.
No,
I wouldn't use the word never.
Right.
There may be for example, when if let's say you're in the 18th inning.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Did you watch that game the other night?
It's been
in my mind. I was thinking, okay. At some point, somebody's got to tell these guys, you got to stop swinging for the fences when you obviously can't hit one tonight. Right? You got to fight off. You got to fight off pitches. They refuse to do that.
But I loved watching that game, and the people around me watching it's like, oh,
right.
They're like, oh, man, this is great. 0-0 in the 15th.
I know.
And actually,
it wasn't great pitching.
2 games.
From inning 14 on, it wasn't great pitching.
No, it couldn't be.
Right.
Last of the relievers, everything. We're talking about bringing their second baseman in. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, in that situation, that's the situation you're thinking. It's late in the game. Nobody's been hitting.
Right.
Maybe you get a runner on first. Maybe you get a runner on second. Maybe you don't have anybody on, Well, you're not going to sacrifice in that situation. But runner on first, runner on second.
Yeah. Yeah, because
depends on who's coming up next.
Yes, and then if you got a guy who hits a lot of fly balls, right?
Yes,
and you have a chance to move a runner over to third in the 18th inning with a bunt, and knowing that we have a 65% chance here that this guy's going to hit a deep enough fly ball for us to win this game.
Exactly.
You bet your butt I'm going to go ahead and bunt there. So, yeah. So here we go, Coach Detweiler. Make you smile. We're not 100% against bunting. All right. So, Anyway, what are some football buzzwords? It's football season.
Football buzzwords.
Yeah, football coaching buzzwords. Saban's full of them. He's the one game at a time guy, right? He's the one that got made fun of.
I
well, and Belichick, just the little one-liners.
How about leave it on the field?
Leave it all on the field.
That's not just about baseball.
What does that mean?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, the game is won in the trenches.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Yeah. Run first mentality.
Yeah.
Run to win. What else? What can we do here? I don't know.
We're not familiar with those.
We're not football people.
Yeah.
It just.
I wonder. There's basketball. There's basketball buzzwords too, or coaching words.
Give me an example.
Coaching. Yeah, maybe they're.
Oh, you just mean phrases?
Yeah, like play in space. Right? You ever say that?
Yes.
What does a player know what that means when you're saying it?
Move without the ball.
Yeah. Move without the ball. Just anything one word. Anticipate. What am I anticipating, Coach?
All right. I'll give you one that I think would shock people, but I think it's a great point. Box out.
What does that mean? What does it look like?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is we don't.
If you don't practice the technique,
right?
Then
the technique
here's
and the
where
mentality.
I would like, because I think all coaches and most players probably know what you're talking about. But go up into the stands.
I wouldn't guess. Well, I wouldn't bet on that.
Players
coach.
may not. Yeah, if you don't practice it, they are going to have a hard time.
Yeah, but even at a youth level, for sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but everybody knows how to say box out.
Right.
From the stands,
yes.
right?
Yes, right.
And I wonder if you put them down there in the heat of that moment, if they would technically
box out.
Yeah, just go ahead and box out. Okay.
Show us. Well, you just box
them out.
Box them out.
How about take a high percentage shot?
Yeah,
we're looking for a high percentage shot here.
There you go. Like they should just know.
Like, Coach, I fire up threes all the time. That's high percentage for me.
Yeah, and some people don't have a high percentage from anywhere on the floor. So
right.
I guess that's one way to tell somebody.
Yeah, a high percentage shot for you is to pass the ball to one of your teammates.
There you go. That's what that means. Wow, what a great point there. To one person, you're saying take a high percentage shot, and it means shoot inside the 3-point line.
Yeah.
To another person,
or it could be anywhere. I mean, for somebody, it might be a high percentage shot. Just might be an uncontested one, because you can hit from anywhere as long as you're uncontested. Right.
Someone else, it might mean don't shoot. Because you don't have any high percentage.
Yes. For our team, that is not a high percentage shot when you shoot the ball.
And there you go. 2 different meanings for the same thing on the same teams. That makes it really difficult.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's good stuff.
I think what happens though is we get so used to saying things like that, and if somebody were to press us to break it down and explain it, I think what would happen is we would find out what we don't know.
Yeah.
Or I should say it this way. Do you know what you don't truly understand? Because I think it's one thing to learn something. It's another thing to truly understand it.
Yeah.
I go to these conferences, and coaches go to these conferences all the time. And what are we doing, man? We're sitting there taking notes like crazy. We're getting new ideas, new drills, and we want to come back and implement those things because we want to make our teams better. We want to make our players better, our programs better. But if we come back and we start implementing something that we truly don't understand, are we really going to make ourselves better?
Yeah. Absolutely. And in your book, you use the example of Coach Corbin from Vanderbilt, how he would, this is a college coach that, literally thousands of people look up to. Yeah. I mean, people love him. They look up to him. They emulate him, and he's here, taking notes on other coaches. Another good example is NFL coaches going to speak with guys like Nick Saban and Urban Meyer and things like that. And it's they're going
realizing they can learn something from those guys.
For sure. Yeah. It's a skill for them to go and to listen to someone speak and to take something from that that they can use. It's an important skill, and what it is knowing that. They may not do things the exact way that I do, but there's probably something valuable that they have that I can use.
Right.
So,
well, and that's actually a great transition to another point, another aspect of this, which is sometimes the way to recognize what you don't know and to I guess to remedy it is to seek the information and seek the knowledge and the understanding that might come through books or podcasts and things like that. But a lot of the times, the holes that need to be filled in your understanding can be filled by people, by surrounding yourself around the right people.
Absolutely.
And this is where getting good assistant coaches, and then being able to delegate some things to them, and then watching them flourish in their role is going to be a benefit not only to you but to the entire program that you're working with.
Yep.
Something that I have learned, something that I value personally, that I learned from the best as an assistant, working underneath a head coach who knew how to do this.
Yeah, I can't remember who I was talking about before. Oh, I know during our summer camp, someone made a comment to me. It's giving me a hard time. What are you going to do? You just standing around? And
yeah.
I said, I've got people smarter than me taking care of all the stations. I don't need to do anything. My job's done. I've already delegated everything. I think that's a primary job of a head coach, is surrounding yourself with people that are knowledgeable and can help you grow as a coach as much as you can help them grow. And I was talking to a person the other day asking about, some advice on picking an assistant coach, and we were talking about things that he might be looking for, and you want someone that can challenge you a little bit, right? That's what you want.
Right.
You don't want to go through a season and feel like everything you said was 100% right, because there's no opportunity for growth there. That's a fact. Right?
Yeah.
If you never make a mistake, you can't grow.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Because there's a fine line between challenging you, like having a difference of opinion about maybe a strategy or something like that, and calling you on it, or just saying, what do you think about this, right? And then actually having and basically doing that for the sake of trying to find the best outcome, trying to make the decision that would give you the best outcome. And then the fine line is you're the person that assistant coach needs to be speaking with in that way, right? But if you have 5 assistants, or let's say you got 3 assistants or 2 assistants, I don't know, more than 1 assistant, and they never come to you.
Oh yeah, that's
like bad. They're different, right? They have differences of opinion, but they're only talking about them with each other. Like they're not necessarily yes men, but they're afraid to talk to you about it.
Right.
So I think I'm not saying that as a negative toward the assistant. I'm saying that as a head coach, I need to make sure that I'm approachable enough that they know that they can disagree. They can come to me and say, I don't know if we should do this. I don't know if we should pitch this guy, right? Like, does Francona have guys around him today saying, man, I think we should go with Bieber?
I'm sure he does.
Exactly.
Sure he does.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's important from both ways. If you have a chance to be an assistant coach, you need to know ahead of time how those types of conversations are going to happen.
Right.
Right.
The buck is always going to stop with the head guy.
Yeah.
Because he's the one that's going to take the criticism for it.
And how can you, as an assistant coach, can you deal with that? Can you deal with saying, hey, I think we should do this, and the head coach saying, okay.
I value your opinion. I hear you.
Maybe sometimes,
but we're going to do it this way.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. Can you handle that? That's an important characteristic of an assistant coach, to be able to.
Man, it is.
To deal with.
That's
stuff
a
like
tough
that.
one.
And in the same way, a head coach has to be able to hear that criticism from his coaching staff. And it's not always criticism; it's ideas, thoughts that are
different,
just different
differences
from how they feel. And that's the challenge of a head coach, right there, being able to hear that information and then making a decision what you think is best.
Well, and it's not, and I'll say this as one who's done that, it's not easy to go ahead and make the decision that you still feel is best when it differs from somebody that you really truly trust and love and know that they're great for your program.
Sure.
Because now you're like, well, you start questioning yourself a little bit. Like maybe I should do it this way, right? And you should. That's it. That's the value of it. You should you should have someone that makes you make sure that you're, because if I go through all those steps in my mind and I still feel strongly, okay, all right, I'm going to own this.
And that's how you know, right there, that process, that exercise is how you know what you don't know.
Right.
Being presented with that, right? Going through that, and that, I say strife, but the conflict of not really knowing, this is still the way I want to go, but wonder why they think that way.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look into this a little bit more.
It gives you a different perspective on it than what you had just 5 minutes ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good call. That's a good good advice right there.
I think it kind of leads into 3 and into your third point in your book. And I think we talk about this a lot from a playing perspective. But
in the strategies for...
Yeah. Using the results, using the situations that you find yourself in as opportunities to figure those things out, right? I think it's easy to label things bad experiences or good experiences.
Right.
But it's all experience.
Yes.
And it's valuable. You can use it.
Yeah.
I remember, and I think we've talked about this on the podcast one time. I was always taught, and I always taught when you're tracking a fly ball, that you never if you have to turn to go in a different direction, you never turn your head away from the ball. That's how I always taught outfielders to play. That's how I played. That's how I was taught. That's how I taught.
Yeah, drop your hips to the inside and
one way or the other.
Keep your eyes on the ball.
Right.
Yeah.
And
stuff to do when you're trying to sprint.
Exactly. And I was challenged with that one practice when and it was kind of.
I remember you asking me about that.
Did I?
You texted me about it. Yeah.
When I had an outfielder that believed in a great kid, great outfielder, and but he was turning his head, and I was screaming, don't turn your head, don't turn your head, and he kind of came back, and his dad was one of our assistant coaches that time. He was telling him, you got to do what your coach tells you to do, and he was like, what? I'm other coaches told me not to do that, so I picked up on that what I was saying was there was some confusion around it, or at least disagreement of what I was teaching. So, that's what I did. I started reaching out to people. I started, trying to use my resources, and I looked it up, and I found a Mike Trout outfield drill.
Someone good to
video.
learn from.
Yeah, right. At the time, one of the best outfielders in the game, and sure enough,
I'd say still.
Well, I mean, defensively, he was. I don't know, but. Sure enough, he's out there practicing turning his head to catch the ball, and like you said, Coach, the best time to do that is when you're on a full sprint and you got to make that turn immediate.
Yeah.
That's it's actually that's the way you want to do it. You want to turn your head and you find the ball again, and it's like, well, it's more difficult. The argument is, well, it's more difficult to do that. Okay,
I don't know.
Well, it's more difficult to make that move and find the ball. Yeah, but that's why you practice it.
Right.
Right. Some actions are more difficult than others.
Yeah, I would argue that it might be more difficult to find the ball because you got to re-find it again.
But it's still more difficult to make the catch.
But it's not. Yeah, but it's gonna put you in a position to make the catch easier.
Yeah.
Because you're not slowing down. You're not. And let's be honest. When you're running, it's hard to see the ball anyway.
Yeah.
Your eyeballs are bouncing up and down.
Very
and when
true.
you have to change directions, are you really, truly keeping your eye on that ball, or do you have to re-find it anyway?
That's a good point.
I think you have to re-find it anyway.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's a good point. A lot of times you're losing it in some capacity. You might have the general area in the sky of where it is, but you're still refocusing on the baseball.
Here's another good cue. Like, let's stay in this example right here.
Okay.
Because I think this is a cue, and I've heard this a lot here in recent years, coaches actually using this more with players, and it goes along with Kevin Wilson's, sort of how do you feel question, right? And that is, okay, you're out here and you're working on your fly ball drill, and some guys are turning, without turning their heads, they're dropping their hips and turning that way, and some guys are doing it the other way. What if you looked at your kids and you said, hey, we're going to do this drill for 15 minutes. I'm going to throw balls over your head. Figure it out. Here's the cue. Figure it out. That's the cue.
Yeah.
Figure out what works.
I like that.
The goal is I need you to catch the baseball.
Yeah.
Right? For some of you guys, this technique might work.
Yes.
For some of you guys, this technique might work.
That's a good point.
I don't care what you do. Figure it out.
Yeah. That's a great point. I think that's what two-strike hitting is like as well.
It is. It's a feel.
Yeah.
Right? You got to figure out how to put that ball in play.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I like that idea. Yeah, and then you go from there of, what are they doing that is completely preventing them from being successful?
Yeah.
And you speak to those things.
Yeah.
And then you use more buzzwords.
Yeah, because because sometimes they just are using poor technique, and sometimes they do need corrected.
Yeah.
Right? But sometimes they just need to feel it and do it their way.
Yeah, but how many times have we seen young kids with such natural swings get changed? That's one thing. The
natural swings that don't look very skilled. Right? They don't look they're not polished, I should say.
Yeah, right.
Man, that kid's unpolished, but man, he can hit.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And then we want to get our hands on them and,
make that swing look pretty.
Make them robotic.
Right.
Put them in a box and make them look like something else instead of just saying, hey, go out there and hit the crap out of the ball. That's it's overcoaching example, but that's, we do that a lot. And that's a good thing. And it's, it goes back to unstructured free play and the value of that, because when kids are out playing baseball and basketball and football and all these volleyball or whatever they play on their own, they don't have a coach to tell them the right way to do it. They have to. They just have to figure it out.
I remember Brock's his first year playing with the travel team, the Midwest Marlins. We had a guy on the team who just was just unpolished in everything he did. But he was center fielder and leadoff hitter. And I remember the coach saying, he said, you watch that kid play, you're like, he should not be able to do the things that he does because it doesn't look like a baseball player. But I said, I'm convinced you can hand him a yard rake and he'd hit the baseball with it. I never forgot that, because I'm like, that's a great way to explain what this kid does, because he just does. I mean, he just does. He gets it done. I'm not touching a kid like that.
No, absolutely not.
You do what you do, buddy.
I think a general rule of thumb is you don't mess with what's working.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Kids struggling, okay. Now you start thinking about different things.
Yeah.
But why try to fix something that's not broke?
Right.
Coaches like to do that. I think I would have done that 20 years ago.
Oh, no doubt.
About
me too.
Knowing what we don't know.
Sure. I wanted everybody to do it this way.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely one thing that I would have. That's the type of coach that I would have been like. I told someone the other day. I told him the story about my kind of what led me to being the varsity coach, and over the past I would say 25 years, what I've wanted to do and how I got there. And I mentioned that I'm glad that the path took me the way it did, because I would have not been the coach that I wanted to be if I had an opportunity 20 years ago, 18 years ago to do it. I wouldn't have been.
Yeah.
Now, maybe I'd had the opportunity to grow into that, but
in 20 years from now, you'll say the same thing.
Yeah.
You'll say, well, boy, I wish I'd have known when I first started coaching what I know now.
Yeah. Well, at least I'm actively seeking that.
Exactly.
Now, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. I'll tell you something that I learned. I mentioned that the reason why I have this mindset and philosophy now is because I've learned from some of the best. And I'll never forget, and I actually do tell this story in the book, but one of the most impactful things that happened to me as an assistant coach was, it actually happened the very first day that Coach Gibson and I sat down to talk about my role as being his assistant coach. And I actually remember what I ran into him. I was actually assisting at Eastern, believe it or not. I mean, while I was teaching there, and I was watching Eastern play basketball in the Convo, and I was going through the gate there, and Coach Gibson was working the pass gate, and I introduced myself. He said, "I know who you are," and I said, "Oh, okay," and I said, "Well, listen, the reason I wanted to introduce myself to you is because I'm currently teaching at Eastern High School, and I said my wife's teaching at Athens, and I really want to get him more involved in Athens. This is where we live. It's where our kids are going to go to school. And so I said, if you're ever looking for an assistant coach, I said I'd love to volunteer, and just learn from you. And he said, meet me out at the high school this Wednesday at 3:30 after school. I went, like now, like this season? And he said, yeah. I said, okay. And so I sat down with him, and he and I talked, and we, and it was, he was telling, whenever you sit down with Gibby, you're going to hear stories, right? He's telling stories, great stories. And then he asked me a question. He said, what part of the game are you most confident working with? Because he said, you're going to coach with me. So he said, if you're going to coach with me, you're going to coach. I said, all right. And so I actually, without hesitation, I said pitching, because that's been the part of the game that I felt the most confident with at that point in time. And I would still say that, even though I've grown in a lot of other areas. But without any hesitation on his part, on Gibby's part, he came back and said, okay, you're our pitching coach. I went, what? And he said, our team's pitching staff is 100% in your hands. And I thought to myself, wait a minute, like surely he doesn't mean it that way, right? Like he doesn't even know me yet, right? And he's a guy who has at that point 30 more years of coaching experience than me, and he had forgotten more about the game than I ever knew. And he is saying, I'm going to put this vitally important aspect of our team in your charge. I learned a lot from that.
Yeah.
I tell you what it did for me. Here's what it did for me. It made me want to be the best daggone pitching coach he's ever had. Right? It energized me. I went home that night and I immediately started looking up everything I could find on pitching, because by gosh, if he's going to put me in charge, I'm not going to let him down.
Sure.
And it empowered me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so he still knew more about pitching. It's like, this wasn't a case of he didn't know what he didn't know, but it was a case of him saying, I trust you. You're my guy. And I'm gonna let you either flourish in that role, or if you suck in that role, I'll take it back over. Maybe that's what he's thinking, but I want you to be able to coach. And it was the first step on my road to learning how to be a good head coach.
Sure. That's great stuff. Yeah. Well, I think that's a coaching philosophy, and not everyone's going to agree with that.
Right. And they don't have to agree with that.
No,
you can do it your way.
For sure. I've always like the idea of being as a coach, being resourceful, and putting people around you that you can trust and count on to do these things that need done. And I don't know, you don't need assistance if you don't do that. I mean,
that's true.
Not to be argumentative one way or another, but it's tough to put that trust in someone, especially if you don't know him. But what he was doing was he was showing confidence in his ability to manage that relationship with you, to be able to do that. And that's, to me, that's what a head coach at the high school level, and really any level, it kind of is. It's not, for things to work right, you want to remove yourself from the picture as much as possible. That's how businesses work.
Yeah.
The more successful you get at something, the less you do of it. Right.
Yeah.
Doctors don't doctor as much as nurses doctor.
It's true.
So it's kind of that evolution of you serving that role as head coach.
Yeah.
But That's good stuff. You were also the catching coach, weren't you? Didn't you?
Ended up being, and that's one that I had to. So there's a different, like, pitching coach. I'm like, okay, I can do this. I'm confident in that, right?
Yeah.
But then he's like, well, the catchers are over there with you too, so I want you to develop them as well.
All right.
And I went, oh, there's something. There's the one position I have never played, and so I actually got to a point now where I have probably more confidence coaching catchers now than any other position.
But you approached the same.
Poured myself into learning about that.
But that's what you did. That's what you just said you did when you learned you're going to be a pitching coach. You went home and you started preparing.
Right.
You did the same thing as one you knew you were confident you knew a lot about. One you were confident you didn't know a lot about. You used the same exercise, the same process to approach both of those.
Yeah, it's true.
That's a good point.
Yeah. There are some funny things that happen we'd be in the middle of a game, like the kids knew if they saw Coach Gibson coming to the mound, it wasn't good. Right? Like, cuz he'd look at me and he'd say, "You better go talk to him, because if I go, I'm going to kill him." He's like, and I'd be like, okay. He's like, and he wouldn't say it quietly either. And so I'd like, okay. I'd go out and we'd talk a little bit, but it was like, it was the mound trips, getting kids ready, asking who should we get ready, who do you think should throw next, right? He always made the decisions about the starting pitcher, but he would always ask me about who I felt like was giving us our best shot. And
sure.
And sometimes he went with me, sometimes he didn't.
Yep.
And then later, when I became the head coach and had Coach Hewitt, same exact procedure, right? He would give me his thoughts. I asked him every night, shoot me a lineup.
Yeah.
Shoot me your lineup, right? Sometimes I went with it, sometimes I didn't. And we always talked about it. Yep. And I still do that. Yeah.
It's good stuff. Yeah. I like that structure. That's kind of where now maybe, like I said,
doesn't have to be everybody's.
Oh yeah,
right?
Absolutely. It doesn't. It doesn't have to be everybody's, and I'm sure there's a lot of successful coaches out there that that we want the decision. Well, it kind of goes. Some coaches call pitches, and some coaches let their catchers call pitches.
Right.
Some coaches let the pitchers and catchers work it out. Some coaches let their pitching coach call pitches.
And both coaches have a good explanation for why they do it the way they do it.
Absolutely right. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And you know what, Pat? I wouldn't have said that when I was 26 and had my first head coaching job as the American Legion baseball coach, for example.
You call it all.
I know. I wouldn't have said those guys have a good explanation for why they do it the way they do it. I would have said, okay, you can explain it, but it's still not the right way to do it. Right. It's still not the best way to do it. Yeah. Right. And I still, and I do still believe there are good, better, and best ways.
Sure, I do too. Yeah.
Right. Like in this game, there are a lot of good ways there are a lot of right ways to do things, but there are also some better ways to do them. I think, and I think the people who are able to implement more of those better ways and best ways are going to win more games.
Yeah, those are end up being the better coaches for sure. Yeah. Being able to pick out pieces of everything and put it together. We've talked about that before. It's like all the information that's out on the internet now of how to hit and how to throw, and it's dangerous to just go with one. Chris O'Leary, right? Let's follow Chris O'Leary. Everything Chris O'Leary says is gold, but it's dangerous to do that. You want to listen to all different viewpoints that you can find out there, as many as you can get. Just like,
and sometimes that one that you really like doesn't work with all of your kids.
True.
And so it comes back to that as well.
Exactly. And not everything you say to a kid is going to have the same effect.
Yeah.
That's a great point too, Coach. That is, we got to be careful of cookie cutter coaching techniques. I guess you'd say not. They're not all the same. They're all different people. They're all different players, and they move and think and perform differently for sure.
I have found at least in myself, the more I go to cookie cutter stuff or buzzwords and things like that and cues, the more I lean on those. I've just in my mind I'm giving myself this reminder. It's if I'm doing that a lot, then I'm probably not understand. I'm in a time or I'm in a place where I'm befuddled. I don't know what to do here. I don't have an answer.
Yeah.
I don't understand, and so I'm going to fall back on my buzzwords.
Yeah.
I'm going to fall back on my cues.
Me and Maya was hitting yesterday, and he was spinning off the ball.
Spinning off the ball?
Yeah. So I told him that a few times, and of course he continued to spin off the ball. So I got really angry. And I asked him why he was spinning off the ball, and he kind of just looked at me, and I thought, oh. So I made
no idea what you meant.
I made him spread his feet.
Yeah.
I said, you know what? Spread. I don't want you stepping at all. Just spread your feet as wide as possible. Just use your arms.
Yep.
And he started hitting a little bit. What was happening was that it was cold, and he was using his wood bat.
He was trying to get that barrel around it.
Oh man, he was hitting the ball off the end of the bat. Just every pitch, it was just. He was in so much pain.
Yeah.
But there's you go through that stuff, and I think that's a cue too. Like when you're coaching a kid, and you're starting to get frustrated because they're not doing what you want them to do. Might want to think about the way that you're telling them to do what you want them to do, because it's not one way or another. It's not working.
Right.
They're not just intentionally not doing what you want to do.
Exactly.
He didn't want to keep hitting the ball off the end of the bat. It was hurting his hands.
Right. But he had no idea what spinning off the ball meant either.
Right. Yeah.
So. Good point. So. Well, I tell you what, for me, the summary of this conversation is this. I don't ever want to get to a place where I don't want to be better than what I am today. I just want to be better. I want to get better. I want to know more. I want to be able to teach more. I want to be able to coach better. And that's the reason why we would even have a conversation like this. Sure. Is because you and I both, we just want to be better.
Yeah, and don't forget, one, if you're out of practice on something, you do forget about it. And two, the game is ever evolving. It changes all the time. I mean, there's things that are taught different today than they were last year.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So, well, going back to, you gave me the order there, going back to what I mentioned earlier. Assume you know nothing.
Yep. There you go.
Just revisit.
That's your strategy. Yeah. Your strategy for knowing what you don't know is to just assume you know nothing.
For sure.